I'm talking narrative theme. So let's break it down. Spoilers for both Trolls movies, by the way. Watch out! When the original Trolls came out in 2016, starring the peppy Princess Poppy and the brooding Branch, it was hard to not think about another animated movie starring even more literal personifications of positivity and negativity that came out just a year prior. A film that was still fresh on my mind, if you will. Inside Out, a personal favorite of mine.
Think positive.
Okay, I'm positive you will get lost in there.
Why don't you try some positivity, eh?
Okay, fine. I'm positive you all are going to get eaten.
And it was hard not to feel like this Trolls movie walked up to Inside Out and just slapped it hard, right in the face. In Inside Out, simply put, Joy learned from sadness that it's okay to not be happy all the time. That as we grow up, emotions grow more complex and nuanced. And that's good, it's healthy. Meanwhile, Trolls tells us, be happy. Okay? Now, Justin Timberlake and especially Anna Kendrick do a good job voicing these characters. I like Poppy and Branch. They have solid chemistry and banter, they're a classic odd couple duo to carry the film, and they're both very close personal friends of mine. But, that said, on a writing level, this movie does Branch so dirty, and it is a criminal injustice. Compared to how Inside Out makes this beautiful statement on the benefits of sadness, the clarity it brings, how nice it feels to let it all out and be heard and listened to as you're being honest about how you're hurting. Trolls over here just keeps beating down Branch in his rational, often pretty objectively correct perspective. A lot of the time his perspective isn't even just like rational, like it's common sense. It's common sense. This whole movie is trying to make Branch out to be this unreasonable sourpuss who just needs a little cheering up. But he's introduced immediately as being very rational in his negativity. He doesn't want Poppy and the other Trolls' wild partying to alert the big Bergens who want to eat them to their presence.
Poppy, if I can hear you, so can the Bergens.
Now, the intent of the film as a whole is to draw a parallel between Branch and the big grumpy Bergens, who also don't do happy, since they don't know how to, at least not without eating trolls.
They're as miserable as you.
So okay, that makes sense. Tell a story where Branch learns that happiness isn't mindless or irresponsible, or, most importantly, unattainable. And the Bergens will learn that too. And this movie does that. Man, does it make it way too hard for itself, since happiness really is portrayed as mindless and irresponsible. I thought at first that the movie was setting up that Poppy had something to learn from Branch.
Someday, when the Bergens find us and the survival of every troll is in your hands, I sure hope the answer is singing, dancing, and hugging, because that's all you know how to do.
Look, I'm not saying the movie has to holistically say Branch is completely right and that Poppy is wrong and that fun is bad and to stop singing immediately. Obviously not. We all like a good banger. Just make it about finding a balance, you know? But it's not, though. It's not. The plot we have, oh man, just think about this plot in the year of our Lord 2020. In Trolls, there's a life-threatening situation that we can protect ourselves from by simply staying inside and choosing not to throw a big party, a large social gathering, if you will. But then, someone decides to go ahead and invite everyone to a big party anyway, thereby endangering everyone. And now let me tell you that the person who decided to throw the big party is the hero of our film! And that arguably he never actually learned why that was bad.
I'll be in my highly camouflaged, heavily fortified, Bergen-proof survival bunker.
You mean you're not coming to the party tonight?
Seriously, the fact that everyone is staying home right now, and it's a sequel to this film that had to be leading the trail to digital release, it feels like some sort of twisted poetic justice on an animated Justin Timberlake's behalf. Did Princess Poppy really need to shoot up fireworks that blast her image up into the sky like some sort of divine deity? The only reason trolls don't start getting eaten immediately is they were only noticed by evil villain chef who decided to take it upon herself to bring them home alone. It may seem like a worst case scenario that happened, but no. This is a lucky break considering how terrible things could have been under Poppy's incompetent leadership. And before you say, hey, well, what are they supposed to do, not live their lives at all? These trolls have been living in undetected isolation for no short of 20 years, singing and dancing, big, choreographed numbers all the time. And they hadn't been noticed up till now. This was them being ridiculously unreasonable, and they got what was coming to them. You could end the story there and call it a parable, but Trolls continues. The movie then has the nerve to play up Branch's survival bunker as exceedingly over the top for laughs. Hey, last I checked, this guy's actually safe, you know? And he goes on to defend himself. Oh, everyone thought he was crazy, but he wasn't. He just prepared. And he has enough provisions stored up to last him 10 years without ever having to go out into the potentially genuinely dangerous outside world. Good job. Good boy. But now Poppy wants Branch to come along to try to save all the trolls who willingly put their lives in danger. Branch, very reasonably, says no. I warned you, you should have listened to me, but you didn't, and now I'm going to protect myself. Reasonable. So then she decides to let every troll who wasn't captured into his bunker without his consent. And it's not only a problem because he'd rather be alone. They are going to carelessly mooch off his resources, 10 years worth of them, in a matter of weeks.
It'll last them 2 weeks.
Then I guess I better hurry.
All of Branch's hard work and preparedness gone in an instant to force him to risk his life cleaning up the mistake of others if he wants to survive.
Solid burn returned.
This isn't the cute little game of tit for tat that the movie thinks it is. Despite her giddy exterior, Princess Poppy is a psychopath. And then the rest of the movie quickly tries to walk all of this back. 28 minutes in, we get this exchange.
The world isn't all cupcakes and rainbows.
Hey, I know it's not all cupcakes and rainbows, but I'd rather go through life thinking that it mostly is instead of being like you.
Oh, so now you're telling me that Princess Poppy partying Princess Psychopath Plus for purchase already has a realistic and healthy approach to happiness. Really? And they keep trying to push this throughout the rest of the movie.
I don't think he's alive. I hope he's alive, and that's enough.
It's at this point, they should have started another draft from the beginning with a new approach to the Poppy character. If they want her to be morally in the clear and tell this story about how she teaches Branch the virtues of a positive outlook, then great. But this story severely undermined itself before it could ever even really begin. And still throughout the rest of the movie, she never listens to any of his ideas. I mean, why'd she even ask for his help? Just so he could save her when she needs it, I guess. But then we build to this line that I will never forget.
Why won't you sing?
Because singing killed my grandma, okay? Oh my god.
So Branch has sworn off singing ever since his being lost in song led to his grandmother having to push him out of the way of a Bergen that ended up getting her. So, you know, he won't sing anymore. But thankfully, this incident doesn't seem to give him any pause about working with a Bergen within the very same scene. Whatever, that's besides the point. Again, this movie gives itself another very high uphill climb, and for why? First, it's trying to say Poppy has the right approach to happiness after she nearly led her people to mass genocide. And second, now it's trying to bring Branch to a place where he sees the value in music after the mindlessness and ignorance that directly resulted from his singing, leading to the death of his grandmother. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't admire the heck out of this utterly, insanely audacious storytelling choice. But this story beat doesn't speak to any personal truth that we can relate to, even indirectly. In another movie, like, Trolls World Tour, actually, characters are put off by other genres of music because they don't resonate with them. For example, the villain in that film, Queen Barb, a hard rock fan, thinks pop music is hollow.
It's bland, it's repetitive, the lyrics are empty.
Okay, that checks out. It's simple. I can buy them being in an emotional place to eventually learn the value in other genres of music, not too high an uphill climb. And most importantly, it's grounded in relatability. We all know people like that, or we are a person like that. On the other hand, no one has any chance at personally connecting with the untimely death of Branch's grandmother due to a singing-related incident.
What?
And as is the case throughout the whole movie, Branch is accurate in his assessment, by the way. If he wasn't blindly singing and instead paying attention to the world around him, his grandmother would still be alive. Fun movie! Okay, but eventually the story gets to this point.
I'm doing great.
Poppy, are you being sarcastic?
Yes!
Now this is the part in the movie where it feels like Poppy is finally about to have some sort of an epiphany that goes beyond simply a reaffirmation of the blind, uncompromised joy that she's previously lived.
Poppy.
You were right, Branch. The world isn't all cupcakes and rainbows.
I thought you said you already knew it wasn't before.
Hey, I know it's not all cupcakes and rainbows.
But anyway. True Colors is a simple but effective sequence to watch play out. Color drowning out and gradually returning. The visual power of this musical sequence almost makes you overlook the fact that Branch just kind of decided that he has happiness inside him now, and his color can return, because now he's not a sad troll anymore, he's a happy troll. Forever.
They came to help because of sadness.
Really? You're finally happy?
I think so.
Happiness reigns supreme.
Happiness isn't something you put inside, it's already there. Sometimes you just need someone to help you find it.
Now that's a really good message, and the whole thing with the Bergens wanting to eat the trolls to feel happy, that's cool and dark and weird and interesting, but how it reflects on Poppy and Branch, I don't know. I wish they could have delivered the message differently. Which actually brings us to the sequel.
I'm gonna unite the 6 strings and destroy all music, except for rock! No! So, I'm gonna need your string.
I went into Trolls 2 really feeling like it'd just be Trolls 2.0. Okay, I sounded like an idiot there. What I mean is, I thought it'd just be another movie where Poppy comes up to the evil villain people like, hey, how about I teach you to do things my way? You know, the happy way. And she doesn't listen to Branch, and learns nothing, and then we're done. But for all the issues that I still have with the sequel, I gotta give it credit. That isn't what we get. I feel like this movie addressed my biggest issues with its predecessor on a thematic level. I must say that I respect the deconstruction of the well-intentioned, oft-repeated platitude that our differences don't matter, in favor of a more nuanced take, that we should express and celebrate our differences, and listen to each other's different perspectives, both musically and ideologically. This sequel actually does put in the work to break down Poppy's worldview.
We're all trolls. Differences don't matter. This song is so sad.
But life is sad sometimes, so I kinda like it.
But it's so different.
Poppy tries to force what she believes to be the quote-unquote most important songs in the history of music on other cultures, in a medley that includes Who Let the Dogs Out, Gangnam Style, and Party Rock Anthem, and Gangnam Style. And hey, you know what? They have every right to enjoy all of these songs. I know they're on my personal workout mix every day, but to definitively claim this very non-diverse medley contains the objectively most important songs, well, that's the kind of wrong-headed exclusionary mentality that our villain Queen Barb is expressing. And the movie actually recognizes that.
Oh, they must not know that music's supposed to make you happy. That's awful.
Now, just like in the first movie, Poppy rejects every idea Branch has. I understand why she'd object to his idea of bringing weapons along, even as a precautionary measure. But, like, again, Branch has a lot of common sense ideas. She throws away the manual he brought to the balloon they're flying and just mashes random buttons, sending the balloon hurtling all over the world. Also, the balloon is sentient.
Sorry!
Poppy's a psychopath. So that is why I am pleased to report Branch and Poppy's unlikely friendship finally gets some long-awaited reevaluation in this film. And it's about time. Branch is interested in moving things a step further in the relationship, and they really gotta clear up these issues if they want to ever do that.
Well, let's just say only one of you is doing the listening in this relationship, and it's not her.
And I was kind of shocked, honestly, because it felt like up until then, these movies just were fine not listening to Branch. Like, that was the point. It was like a running gag. Even villain Barb surprisingly says,
Friendship takes time and years of mutual care and respect. You don't just become best friends.
unlike the first movie, friendship isn't represented by just giving yourself over to a one-track happy mind as your external form permanently changes to reflect your new, happy lifestyle. Poppy unfairly tries to get down on Branch for being a bad friend when he gives her criticism.
I thought we were friends, Branch. I'm starting to think you don't even know what that means.
But the movie doesn't. The movie lets Branch say back,
We are friends, and sometimes that means speaking up if I think you're making a mistake.
they're allowed to have their differences. The movie gives them the space to question if they're too different to be friends, despite how much they care about each other. In a third act breakup that actually doesn't feel obligatory since it's relevant to the core of the story.
Denying our differences is denying the truth of who we are.
You know what I heard back there? Differences do matter.
Poppy's flawed mindset on the subject of difference is threaded through nicely.
I can't stay home when I know there's a world full of different trolls out there just like us.
But they're not just like you, Poppy. That's why they're different. really, the best part of this movie is how deeply it deconstructs all of this.
If we combine our music, she'll see that music unites all trolls and that we're all the same.
But we're not all the same.
It's why all our strings are different, because they reflect our different music.
The pop trolls tried to take over music back in the day, just like Queen Barb is doing. I did not expect to hear Trolls World Tour telling me that history books are written by the winners.
The pop trolls tried to steal our strings.
That's not what it said in our scrapbooks.
Scrapbooks? Those are cut out, glued, and glittered by the winners.
For me, that's a line with the same attention-grabbing harshness of
Singing killed my grandma, okay?
except this line actually leads to something compelling and not ludicrous nonsense that I'm not sure how to feel about. Do I laugh? Am I sad? What?
Let me tell you how it really went down.
It's interesting that now 2 recent animated sequels have taken on themes like this. Frozen 2 and Trolls 2 both smuggle in messages about colonialism, in which the forefathers of their main characters unjustly dominated other cultures. Although, that being said, I will honestly say, I think Frozen 2 could have held its main characters more accountable. Anna or Poppy aren't directly responsible for the sins of the past, obviously not, but if you're going to tackle this message, they should recognize the flaws in their static, insular, inadvertently oppressive existences. It's the right thing to do culturally, and also it makes for more active storytelling than saying, hey, well, a bunch of old dead people did a bad thing.
Grandfather?
Isn't that bad? Because if you let it just be the distant sins of the past, then the main characters will just say, oh, well, that's bad. But I'm not like that, though. I'm nice. And I'm good. So this isn't gonna rock me to my core or anything. Thanks for telling me, though. You know what? Trolls World Tour actually shows throughout how Poppy has internalized the oppressive superiority of her people without even realizing it.
I hadn't thought of it like that.
And Poppy realizes how harmful it can be to force your perspective on others. It isn't your destiny to show everybody the one quote-unquote right way to do things. And the ending shows Poppy rewriting the history books to show how wrong her ancestors were. You know, about music. This is about music. Wink, wink. Colonialism. But, you know, again, doing this message through the lens of differing music genres is relatable and effective, and very accessible to children. People can get pretty exclusionary when they talk about their taste in music, putting oft-heard phrases like,
That's not music. Do you want to hear some real music?
in the mouth of your villain is a lot of fun. In the end of the day, both Trolls movies come to an internal resolution. The first movie came to the conclusion that happiness isn't something you take from others and absorb into yourself. Instead, you've always had your own happiness inside of you. But in this one, it's basically that message, but swap out happiness for culture. And not only does that sound even more interesting to me on paper, it's executed better too. They thought music came from the magical strings or whatever, and that then you wield the power of all the strings, and that's who comes out victorious. But the end of the movie says, well, that's dumb.
Queen Barb can't take away something that is inside us, because that's where music really comes from.
Music's power comes from all of their individual experiences, their individual lives, their individual cultures. Inside them. Poppy wants music to bring all of the tribes together instead of dividing them. But if you don't allow different types of music to exist, that's actually when we become divided. Whether you're straight up attacking them, or good-heartedly trying to quote-unquote educate them on what music is quote-unquote supposed to sound like. As the movie tells us, we are not all the same. Denying our differences is denying the truth of who we are.
I love that we're different.
And for film, an artistic medium that has entered so many genres over the years, comedy, drama, action, adventure, romance, it feels fitting for the final piece of that medium, ever, ever, forever, no more movies, sorry, to be a story about a wide spectrum of genres coexisting in harmony, each with its own passionate group of supporters. Like the pop songs the villain sneers at, Trolls World Tour is certainly not going to be considered a real piece of art by many. And there's plenty I don't like about it. Tiny Diamond, I'm speaking directly to you. But this movie will have its fans that are excited to spend time in its warm, fuzzy world. This movie will be the world to some people out there, in the way that your favorite movie is to you. Just like some people love pop and some people love rock. Now that doesn't mean that Trolls World Tour can't be criticized, or that any movie can't be criticized. But you know what? It shouldn't be silenced. It deserves to be allowed to exist. And with that, I say goodbye to movies. Heck, I mean, even if all the currently delayed films get released, it's not like they can make any more movies ever, forever, ever. We had a good run, movies. We had a good run. Wait a minute. I'm thinking about what Trolls World Tour taught me. About how we don't need the strings. Movies started with outside resources, the sets, the studios. But we don't need all that. Even if we have to stay in our bunkers for a while. That's not going to stop us from creatively expressing ourselves in our own ways. The way I express myself is evidently by making a video about the Trolls franchise. And the Trolls franchise told me that was valid. Because even though for right now, we may have to stop creating and spreading entertainment the way that we used to, the power to create, that feeling of inspiration, is still inside all of us. So yes, the process has to change. But you know what? You can stop the process, but you can't stop the feeling. Oh boy, with all this talk about a DreamWorks character going into a bunker and the end of the world, I think it's obvious what we need to talk about next. If this is the last movie before the apocalypse, I think we need to talk about a show about the world post-apocalypse. See you next time, everyone.
Pretty well. Thank you guys for playing, and don't forget to catch Trolls World Tour soon.